Chapter 16, letting Jesus be himself with you. Encounters. I got an email recently from a friend who is a little embarrassed about his taste in music. While others listen to Christian stations, he prefers New Age jazz stuff, not New Age teaching. It's an instrumental form of jazz music that uses a lot of saxophone. Here is his email. At times, I felt a little odd and maybe even guilty listening to this genre, but I was walking out to my car from a particularly hard sales call. I was asking Jesus to give me peace and rest. I asked if he minded that I listened to this station. As I got in the car, I sensed him saying, "Oh no, that's fine. I'm here too." And so I got in the car, punched in my station, and on came an instrumental version of Fairest Lord Jesus. I said, laughing, so you are here. I hope that's a common occurrence for you, friends. I've had Jesus say something to me, and the very next moment, what he said is repeated on the radio in a song or in a movie I'm watching, or literally comes out of the mouth of someone I'm talking to. The song of a child, a song on the radio. Jesus is infinitely creative. Just let him be himself with you. But let me give you a grace that will help you find him, help you experience him. Jesus is teaching, and he said to them, "Therefore, every teacher of the law who has been instructed about the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a house who brings out of his storeroom new treasures as well as old." This is such a beautiful, stabilizing, gracious verse. It is immensely kind. It is also immensely cunning. So very Jesus. Think of it. Jesus was shaking some of his listeners' most cherished assumptions while inviting them into very new ways of understanding God. The veil was coming down forever. It was a moment ripe for diminishment or defensiveness. He moved quickly to dismantle both overreactions. On the one hand, some of those present are leaping to, "All these years I have been wrong." It'll help to add a Jewish accent. "So much time in Hebrew school, and for what? I am such a schmutz." They throw their ashes on their heads, toss their prayer shawl in the ash can. Diminishment. Okay, certain personalities tend this direction. I know I can. For years, whenever I hear one of those dramatic stories, told by missionaries, the ones where Jesus appears in the midst of a kidnapping or attempted murder, right? Binds the group of machete-wielding rebels, and the would-be martyr walks out unharmed, and then he leads the whole village to Christ and becomes best friends with the witch doctor, right? Those. I would think to myself, I am such a loser when it comes to Jesus. I don't have anything like that to share. That's the real stuff, right? I'm playing with blocks on the kindergarten floor. Something I haven't experienced eclipses everything that I have known of God. Jesus is trying to prevent that plunge into diminishment by saying that our old treasures are treasures. Okay? Now, on the other hand, Jesus knows he is also dealing with personalities who will fight to the death for what their fathers believed. Those types, at this moment, are racing to conclusions. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this is too much. I will not abandon all my fathers have taught. We must reject this man and his teaching. Their eyes scanning the ground for stones. This crowd can get ugly in a flash. You know the type. To be honest, most of us have this type in us as well. In a one-sentence parable, Jesus rescues them both. Rescues us. Don't let someone else's remarkable encounter with Jesus diminish the beauty of what you know of him. Hold fast to the treasures you have. At the same time, you haven't experienced all there is to experience with God. There is more, much more. Those new possibilities are often open to us through hearing the ways Jesus is working in other people's lives. And so put down the ashes and the stones, okay? Let's discover more of Jesus together. My son was having a tough freshman year at college. So many students there bound under the religious fog, really tragic. And it was a lonely fall filled with misunderstanding. One afternoon, just after a classmate said something particularly hurtful to him, Blaine returned to his room and slumped onto his bed, about as low as a young man can get. He looked over to his desk and he saw Jesus sitting there in his desk chair, a smile on his face. He was wearing a pirate hat. And then he just disappeared, like the Emmaus Road. Now, experiencing Jesus doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it is, but not always. When you think of all those days the disciples spent with Jesus, just walking here and there or reclining at the table, the big-time miracles actually account for a pretty small portion of those years. There was just a lot of ordinary living. Jesus comes here too, in a tulip, in a smile, in a cup of coffee, in the night sky. Last night, I had a horrible night. I don't know quite how to describe it, but if I even use the word Gethsemane, I lose everything by trying to establish a connection. Just hours of evil attack, the fruit of which was I couldn't find Jesus this morning. I felt as though he had abandoned me. And so kneeling down in my office, worshiping, face to the floor, I suddenly felt a presence next to me. And then something dropped near my ear. It was an old chewed up toy. I looked and there was Oben, wagging his tail. Want to play? The playfulness of Jesus, cheering my heart through my dog. And then Oben lay down in front of me and began to lick my hand. And it was so merciful, so comforting, the comfort of Jesus. I was going to call this book Jesus of 1,000 Hearts because of the way he continually breaks into my life. He speaks to me through hearts. I'll find stones in the shape of hearts in the rivers where I'm fishing. I've had them almost step by step of a mountainside when we were on a grueling climb. Praying in the morning, I'll look out the window and passing by will be a heart-shaped cloud, dinner rolls, seashells, stains on my jeans. I won the lottery when it comes to hearts from Jesus. But I am ashamed to admit that last summer, I grew a little impatient with them. I was going through a hard time and seeking God for the answer to many questions. And often he would simply give me a heart in reply. I'd be walking down the sidewalk, and there, in the cement, a heart-shaped hole made by a bubble when they poured the sidewalk. I actually grew a little dismissive of them. I didn't want hearts. I wanted answers. So Jesus stopped giving these treasures of our friendship. And then last fall, while walking through an alpine meadow when we were bow hunting, I was asking him, how come you don't give me hearts anymore? I asked it in a pouting kind of way. At that moment, something gray caught my eye. I looked down, and there in the grass, between my stride, about as big as a dinner plate, was a dried piece of cow manure in the perfect shape of a heart. If I didn't know that Jesus adores me, if I didn't know he is playful, and if our relationship didn't allow me to receive a playful tease, I might have misinterpreted the icon. But I loved it. It was both, you've been a little snippy, haven't you? And I adore you still. A cow pie heart. That is so Jesus. I wish I'd have taken a photo of it. We would have put it on the cover of the book.